Cougar Sports Saturday.
It's complete. Another touchdown!
Cougar Sports Saturday. A presentation of KSL Sports.
Left wing for three. He got it again!
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Here are your hosts, Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Welcome back in. It's Cougar Sports Saturday. BYU basketball is back home. They will be awaiting their name to be called tomorrow. And that is, I think, the silver lining here is they are getting their name called. They're not on the bubble. There's no sweat.
Yes.
The only frustration could be how far you slip. But you look at that resume. Last year they were a 6. I don't know how they're any worse than a 6.
I'm with you. I feel like this is a team that deserves a 5. They should be a lock to be a 5. But it's always the history. I guess Cougar fans have just gone through a lot when it comes to seeding and whatnot, and that just leaves you wondering, like, what will happen? And I really think it'll be interesting to see what type of respect the committee gives to the Big 12 Conference. You know, we hear so much about the SEC, and they're having a historic year. Big Ten's in action right now, but the Big 12 is a dang good league. To me, BYU deserves a 5 at the low end of 6. They should not be anywhere near a 7, but we got to get out to the phone line. A man that knows the NCAA tournament very well. He coached BYU to a lot of tournaments, had a ton of success in his time at BYU, the greatest coach in BYU basketball history. Dave Rose joining us now on Cougar Sports Saturday. Coach Rose, thanks for joining us here on KSL.
Yeah, thank you. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. How was the trip to Kansas City? I know that BYU probably would have liked a different outcome yesterday, but your impressions of the Big 12 tournament?
Yeah, it's quite a different tournament than the tournaments that I played in and competed in. The Mount West tournament in Vegas was very interesting in its setup, and obviously the WCC tournament was a little different than the Big 12 tournament. I think it's from an outsider looking in, how they treat the teams, how they treat the fans, how they treat the players. I mean, it's a great league to be in, and I think that's why BYU fans are so excited, and I know that's why the players will continue to want to come to BYU and play at a really high level because it's pretty good basketball.
Dave, what were your emotions like last night during a battle between BYU and Houston, two universities, obviously near and dear to your heart? Take us through just how you felt watching that game.
Well, I watched both teams all year, and I'm really impressed with the job that both coaches have done. Kelvin obviously has been doing it for years, and I met Kelvin Sampson 30 years ago when I was coaching junior college, and he was recruiting one of my kids. He was at Washington State, and one of my junior college guys ended up going up there and playing for him. And then obviously he went to Oklahoma and was with the Rockets. And then when they hired him at Houston, everybody, all the whole Cougar Nation Houston Cougar Nation was excited about that. So, we're close. Cheryl's close with Kelvin's wife. And so that's been interesting. He beat the heck out of me twice, once at our place and once at their place. So, but I love watching this BYU team. I think, Coach Young has done a terrific job, and I really, really enjoyed the game on Thursday against Iowa State. I think that was a really competitive game and played at a really high level. I was really happy to see BYU in that game. So it's fun. It's a great time of year. It's I think what really, really excites the fan base all around and not just the individual school fan bases, but the country. They kind of jump into this thing in March, and they make it one of the best sporting events in the country.
Talking with former BYU head coach Dave Rose right now on KSL News Radio with Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte. And Coach, what do you feel is the strength of Kevin Young's BYU team this year?
Well, to me, what is most impressive, besides the actual ins and outs of offensive adjustments and defensive adjustments and game plan and the prep and everything, what he's been able to do with the chemistry of this team and to play as many players. I mean, he went clear into the middle of February playing 11 players. That's really unheard of in the college world. Maybe it is a little more. Maybe some NBA teams can do that, but until our guy got hurt, and our shooter, what's his name?
Catchings.
Is Robinson. Catchings, yeah. And so now the last 3 or 4 games we've just played 10, the rotation of 10, but that's still really unusual in the college game. And I mean, it's amazing how to have a team this good and have a team this successful in the league, and then you end up with one first-team all-league guy and one freshman team all-guy, honorable mention league player. That tells you how many players were used on the roster, that there weren't individual every game in and game out. It was a team effort, and you only get the two kids recognized. Some of these teams had 5, 6, 7 kids on the all-conference team. So I think that is the strength of this club, the depth of the club, and the fact that they can match up with almost any kind of team except Houston. That quickness and strength and that real toughness defensively, that they can match up with almost any team because of the variety of players and variety of teams they can put on the floor because of the amount of players that they play.
Dave, you mentioned that Houston team. Not a great matchup. And look, Houston's one of the best teams in college basketball.
It's not a great matchup for very many people.
Right. Yeah, right. Well said.
You take November away, and it's a terrible matchup for anybody in December, January, February, March this year.
Well,
they haven't lost many games.
So, with that being said, the 9-game winning streak is snapped. Do you think this team still has confidence despite that big loss against Houston, or was that just simply you ran into one of the great teams in the sport and you move on?
Yeah, this will be one of the easier games. You don't want to say this when you're coaching because it makes you just not seem like you're I don't know. But anyways, when you're not coaching, you're just looking in, and the guy who's experienced it, this is an easy game to shelve, okay, and to put past you and get on to what's next. Because what's next is what you've really been playing for the entire year. You know you're in the tournament. You're not going to your meeting tomorrow with your players wondering if your name's going to be called. You're just wondering where you're going to play, where you're going to go, who your matchup is, who's in your bracket, who's next. And so I don't think you obviously they're disappointed that they didn't win the game. They didn't play better, and they're not the Big 12 champs. But they've had a great season, and these kids they'll rebound, they'll bounce back. And I'm really interested in how the tournament committee will take care of this team. If they're going to send them clear across the country to Providence, or keep them close in Denver, or where they're going to put them. And BYU is they have a little bit baggage with this tournament because we're the only team out of all the. I think maybe there's one other school in Division I that won't play on Sunday, but we're the only one that ever goes to the tournament, and they don't. I don't think they really like having to adjust for us, and so sometimes we don't get the best flip of the coin when how this works. And I think there's a real possibility they could get a 5 seed, but sometimes that's not good because they put you with the 12 and they'll take that, maybe the strongest 12, or it's a 12 that I think one year we got a 12 and it was UCLA. I mean, one of the best teams that ever play in the tournament, So anyways, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, and hopefully the guys perform well in that first round game.
Was there ever a year, Dave, where when your teams, or even when you were an assistant with Coach Cleve, where you felt like, oh, wow, the committee gave us a higher seed than we expected? Because I feel like I know the answer, but was there ever a year that's like, wow, that's higher than we thought?
We went, I think what was 8, and went 3 times with Cleveland. So we went 11 times. I would say that did not happen.
I kind of had a feeling.
What do you think this team needs to do offensively in a game like a Houston game where they're struggling to get shots going to go? What kind of wrinkle do you think they could maybe go to in the tournament to get out of that scoring drought?
Well, I think you really saw it, the adjustment made in the second half, because they really went. Coach Young brought the bigs up and the ball screen with them and rolled them to the basket. And Houston's rotation on the backside was more to stop the shooters, okay? And he didn't want to let the 3-point shot of him. I mean, we hit 18 of them the day before. His whole game plan was to make sure that we did not get started on that 3-point line and get going. And he let Cable get to the basket quite a few times and score. But I think that's a strength of ours that we can really exploit. We got 3 really good inside guys that we can play at that position to score for us. And I know that it'll be interesting on that adjustment. But the fact, I don't think you can say that, hey, if we don't make shots, we're not going to win. This team is much better than that. It's gone through. You win 9 games. He went a whole month without getting beat in the Big 12. That is something that might be really hard to be repeated again, for a long time. That's a pretty good run, and I hope that the matchups are the key, the confidence is the key, and then how your players. There's another thing that people don't really think about, but the end of the season there's a whole nother thing that jumps into that, and that. Sometimes it is the postseason awards, and when your players get slighted in that postseason, sometimes they get more motivated, or they come together. But also sometimes they can, be divided a little bit because of this kid got a first team and this kid got a third team or second team, and they don't, the players. There's stuff involved in the chemistry of your team that wasn't involved in the first week of February, and so. There's a lot of mental games that are playing, and I think our guys they got to flush this one. Okay, the one that was yesterday, flush it, and when they come back and get ready to go on Monday and start practicing again, I think we're going to be in really good shape.
Here with former BYU coach Dave Rose for a few more moments. One of those guys that earned first team All Big 12 was Richie Saunders. I'm curious, Coach, is there anyone that Richie, when you watch him, that he reminds you of, that maybe you coached or have seen in basketball, that kind of he reminds you of when you watch him?
Well, he is really a unique player in today's world, because he's got so much to his game. I mean, he's a great shooter, but I don't think that's what you really say. That's what he is. He's a player. He reminds me a lot of Tyler Haws, but with better range than Ty. Ty was more of a kind of a 15 to 18 foot guy. He could shoot threes, but that wasn't his real strength. And Richie does shoot threes, and he's really good at it. But man, he can put the ball on the floor. He can score. He can pull up. He can shoot. He's a great free throw shooter. I mean, there's so many things that he can do on the offensive end of the floor that he's really, really improved on. He's always been really tough and stick his nose in there and defend, and he's gotten way better. In Coach Young's system, he fits really well in how they do things, but he's done a much better job of his lateral quickness and being able to keep guys in front of him. I think he's really, really improved. And I mean, if you saw, even if you probably talked to Coach Pope, and Coach Pope would tell you the truth. I mean, I don't know if Coach Pope saw Richie being, this kind of player offensively, and the impact that he would have. He has really improved and made himself into an All Big 12 player. And a lot of people say that he'll play at the next level and really have a chance to make a name for himself.
Dave, last thing for you. I think back to some of your teams that had success in March Madness, and in particular that Jimmer's junior year. You get that nice win against Florida. Jimmer had a great game, of course. You need your best players to play well. But, I'll never forget that Mike Lloyd performance in that game. Who is someone that you think could have that type of performance next week in the NCAA tournament?
Well, I think that's the beauty of this team, is that it could be 3, 4, maybe even 5 different guys, and you just look at their guard line, and all 4 of those guards that play a lot of minutes could actually have big offensive nights. If they get 2 or 3 of them that have big offensive nights, they're going to be playing on Saturday. And so I think that the post players have got to really be active as far as their ability to make catches, get the ball, score around the basket. But our guards and our scoring guys are going to have to, we're going to have to get 2 or 3 guys that are, I'm really, really impressed. I think we've had a couple games this year. We've had 7, maybe 8 guys in double figures offensively. And that is that's a hard thing to do. But when you're sharing the ball, it shows how unselfish you are. And we'll need a good offensive night and a really good defensive performance to get through the first round. But when we get to that next game, I think the good things can happen for this group. I really do. I believe that.
He's former BYU head coach Dave Rose. Coach, we appreciate the time. And will you be making the trip to wherever BYU goes in the NCAA tournament?
Well, I don't know. You'll have to ask my wife. She'll decide. If we go to Providence, I don't know if she'll be excited to go to Providence. But Denver's a different story.
Yeah.
We'll see where we end up. We've been to Lexington before, but it'd be fun to go out there. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. That's the beauty of our life, is that we can do about what we want when I don't have to go to Huntsman.
Well-deserved, Coach. We always appreciate the time catching up with you. We send our best to your wife, Cheryl, and always appreciate the time, Coach.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys.
That's Dave Rose here on Cougar Sports Saturday. We're taking a break. We'll talk more BYU basketball next, maybe have a conversation on Yegor Demon and some of the conversations that we had just moments ago with Coach Rose right here on KSL.
This speech is my recital. I think it's very vital to rock around. That's right, on time. It's tricky. Here we go. It's tricky to rock around. That's right, on time.
Mitch, I got to tell you, man, feeling a lot better about that loss after talking with Dave Rose than I did on my drive up here.
Coach Rose has got a calming influence.
It's a good interview if you're just tuning in. Dave Rose, BYU legend, was on for a good 15 minutes with us just on the other, before the break. He was with us. We'll put that interview up on the podcast feed. But for him to say, because he would know, and we feel it too, like the Coach Rose era is our era of BYU hoops.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Mitch are in our 30s. Maybe we shouldn't date ourselves on the show, but when I really got into BYU hoops, when I would travel to Vegas and do all that fun stuff, conference tournaments, it was the Rose era. And there were many a painful loss in the conference tournament that I struggled with. And for Dave to come on and say the conference tournament losses is the easiest one to get over, because I won't deny, Mitch, I'm a little concerned, less now, but was a little concerned. Can you flush this?
Yeah.
A 9-game winning streak, you're riding high, you're the talk of the town, you're the talk of the country. Houston punks you, to use a Kevin Young term.
Mm-hmm.
Again, 2 times Houston punks you and gets you in that first half to where the second half is irrelevant. And for Coach Rose to say, it's easy to get over. You turn the page because all the work, all the effort, it's about tomorrow and going forward. It's not about the conference tournament. It's about March Madness. I'm feeling a little more optimistic that this can be flushed and you just keep stacking days.
It's interesting, too, when you look at Coach Rose. He's the last BYU head coach to win an NCAA tournament game. Before him, you got to go to Roger Reed.
Iona?
So Iona, in 2012, and then
It's been 13 years.
yes, Coach Rose won. He won 4 games in the NCAA tournament. Pretty good, honestly. Clip. There's opportunities more to be had. I'm sure he'd love to have that number higher. But then you go Roger Reed and Liddell Anderson. That's the last 3 head coaches to win NCAA tournament games at BYU. So Coach Rose, among the best in BYU history, if not the best. He was consistent as can be at BYU and did an outstanding job. And this one will be one that maybe you treat it like what they did in 2011, Jimmer's senior year, Jackson Emery. They lose to San Diego State in the conference tournament final. Heartbreak, sure, you missed out maybe on a 2 seed, but flush it, you know the big dance is waiting. And they did. And they got to the Sweet 16, and maybe it's the same thing for this group. Go to Denver, play 2 games, maybe get to the Sweet 16. I don't know. Maybe that's what the path was in 2011. I think this BYU team will respond, but it will come down to matchups, and Coach Rose knows that better than anyone.
I do think, though, there are more favorable matchups for BYU this year than in any other year.
Yeah.
Other years, it felt like half the bracket you wanted to avoid.
Do you get a little bit worried when you see the possibility of North Carolina maybe in a first 4?
No. North Carolina has
kind of
one
embraced
quad
that.
1 win. They have
But
one quad 1 win.
Same thing with UCLA a few years ago. We thought that would be a good matchup.
Good point. All right, let's take the break on the other side. Speaking of bracketology, let's dive in
Yes.
and predict bracketology, baby.